People like to believe love begins with a moment, a look, a word, a coincidence that feels too precise to be random. But my story doesn't feel like that. It feels more like something that slowly changed the temperature of my life without me noticing until I could no longer remember what it was like before. I worked in a small repair shop in a city that always looked half-finished. Not broken, just paused. Like the world was waiting for permission to continue. Phones, old radios, clocks that had stopped years ago, that was my life. I fixed things other people had already given up on, which, in a strange way, made sense. I never expected anything to come back to me. Then she walked in. I still remember that she didn't match the place. Not because she was beautiful, though she was, but because she looked like she belonged somewhere with more meaning than a repair shop full of forgotten objects. She carried something small in her hands, wrapped carefully, as if it mattered more than anything else in the room. It was a vinyl record. She asked if I could fix it, and I almost said no. Not because I couldn't, but because something about her voice made me aware of how quiet my life had become. I had gotten used to silence. Her presence made it feel like I had been missing sound without realizing it. I took the record. I told her I would try. That should have been the end of it. People come, people leave. Things get repaired or they don't. That is how the world usually works. But she came back. Not immediately. Not in a way that felt planned. It started like an accident repeating itself. She returned a few days later, then again after that. Sometimes she would stay for a few minutes, sometimes longer. Sometimes she would speak, sometimes she would just sit near the window while I worked. I never asked her why she kept coming. I think I was afraid the answer would make her stop. Her name was Lila. Even now, saying it in my mind feels like touching something fragile. The record became a reason, but not the real one. I could tell. It didn't really need fixing in the way she thought it did. It was old, yes, worn at the edges, but not beyond repair. What she was actually bringing me was an excuse to return somewhere she didn't fully understand herself. And I didn't understand why I didn't want her to stop. The first time I played the record, there was almost nothing. Just static. A faint suggestion of music buried under noise, like a memory trying to exist without permission. I told her that it might take time, and she nodded like she already knew that life was like that, full of things that refused to return clearly. After that, something changed in my days. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. It was more like the edges of everything softened. The shop didn't feel as empty. The air didn't feel as heavy. Even the rain outside the window seemed less like an interruption and more like part of a rhythm I had never noticed before. I started waiting for her without admitting I was waiting. There is a specific kind of silence that only exists when you expect someone. It is different from loneliness. Loneliness is empty. Expectation is full of something that hasn't arrived yet. She told me things, but never in a way that felt like she was giving me information. It was more like she was leaving small pieces of herself behind without realizing it. She liked old things. She didn't trust new places. She felt like she was always in between decisions she had not made yet. And sometimes she would ask questions that didn't feel like questions, but like thoughts she was thinking out loud because she didn't want to carry them alone. I never told her much about myself. I didn't think there was much to tell. But she looked at me sometimes like she was trying to read a story I hadn't written yet. The record finally changed one evening when the city was especially quiet. I remember the rain hitting the glass in a steady rhythm, like something trying to communicate in a language no one had learned yet. I placed the record on the turntable again, not expecting anything different. But this time, there was something underneath the static. A melody. Not complete. Not perfect. But real enough to make the silence around it feel like it had been lying. When I told her, she came immediately. I don't think I had ever seen her move so fast before. She stood in the back room of the shop while the sound filled the space between us, and for the first time, I noticed that she wasn't just listening. She was remembering. I realized then that the record wasn't just hers. It was something tied to her in a way she had never fully explained. That was also the moment I understood something else, that she was not staying. Not because she didn't want to, but because something inside her treated staying like a temporary mistake. After that night, I began noticing the shape of endings inside her presence. The way she looked at doors. The way she paused slightly longer before leaving. The way she smiled like she was already practicing how to disappear gently. And still, I didn't ask her to stay. Because there is a kind of fear that disguises itself as respect. I told myself I was giving her freedom, but the truth is I was avoiding the risk of hearing her choose something other than me. One day she stopped coming. Not gradually. Not with explanation. Just absence. At first, I thought she was delayed. Then I thought she was avoiding a moment she hadn't decided how to handle. Then I realized I was inventing reasons because accepting the truth would mean accepting how quickly something had become important to me. After a few days, I found a note. It didn't explain much. It didn't need to. Some messages are not meant to inform, they are meant to end a silence in a way that hurts less than guessing. She was gone, and I was supposed to understand that I shouldn't look for her. But I did. I found myself walking through parts of the city I had never cared about before. Places I had always assumed were irrelevant to me suddenly felt like they might contain answers. I passed the cinema she once mentioned in passing. I stood outside it for a long time without going in, as if proximity alone could bring clarity. Eventually I did go inside. It was empty, as old cinemas tend to be when they are no longer pretending to matter. The air smelled like dust and time. And there, in the dim light, I found her. Or what felt like her. She was sitting in the middle rows, as if she had been waiting not for me specifically, but for something that might resemble me. When I walked toward her, I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel anger. I felt something quieter, like a question finally reaching the place where it was supposed to be answered. She told me she had been afraid of becoming permanent in someone else's life. That she had learned to leave before being left. That she didn't trust the idea of staying because staying always came with the risk of loss. And I understood, because I had been doing something similar in reverse, avoiding reaching for anything that might not hold. We were both living in avoidance, just in different directions. I don't remember exactly what was said after that. Not because it wasn't important, but because at some point words stopped being the main thing happening between us. There was a moment where everything slowed down, where the space between us stopped feeling like distance and started feeling like possibility. We didn't fix each other. We didn't solve anything. But we left that place together. And I learned something I didn't know before, that love doesn't always arrive as certainty. Sometimes it arrives as hesitation that you choose not to run from. I still work in the shop. The city is still the same. The rain still behaves like memory. But now, there is another presence in my days that doesn't feel like interruption anymore. And sometimes, when the record plays, imperfect, slightly static, never fully complete, I understand that some things are not meant to be repaired into perfection. Some things are meant to continue as they are, because they are still happening. And for me, that is enough.